y'all see that? Did y'all hear that? Y'all know what I'm talking about. It was 90 minutes of action-packed Board of Trustees meetings going on at FAMU today. And we're here to talk about it. But first, as always, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages on Facebook, on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Instagram. You can find all of our work at HBCUsports.com. And we're going to have to try to make some sense of what all of us just heard over the last nearly 2 hours of debate. There were some cheap shots, a lot of emotion, a lot of anger, and confusion, I would say, at the FAMU board meeting this afternoon, where Tiffani-Dawn Sykes gave an update on the coaching search process, where at the end she decided, hey, we need a search committee and a search firm to find a new coach. In light of Sean Gibbs going back to Fort Valley State, he was like, I don't want to have anything to do with what y'all got going on here because y'all are dysfunctional. Let me stay in my little place in Georgia and make my money and not have these problems, because today, fellas, this was a problem. So, Chris, what do you make of what we just saw today?
How can I say this without offending the FCC folks that are probably going to be monitoring this broadcast? Shenanigans, basically. It honestly started this morning on social media, and there was a gentleman on the call that mentioned, how so much of things in this process for the A&M has, made it to social media, and it really shouldn't. And there's an alleged Florida A&M blog that was tracking the comings and goings of AD Sykes, talking about she's usually late to work, even though she only lives down the street. And then that's weird. That's very weird off the rip. Like what business is it of yours what another person does with their time? And the fact that you're doing this behind an anonymous blog, she should really press charges against you, whoever you are over at Rattler Nation, whatever the name of that blog is. You need to face prosecution for stalking. That's number one. Number two, I haven't done the board of trustees thing in a few years. Most of my journalism experience has been, game on site based. I haven't had to sit through coaches being hired, coaches being fired, proposals for buildings or whatever in some time. And this meeting reminded me of how much I hated them as a full-time journalist many moons ago. None of this makes any sense. For one, we talked about this with respect to Kevin Granger at Texas Southern. Why hire an athletic director if you're not going to let them athletically direct? I mean, this feels like, I've already said my piece about this being really, based on the fact that, AD Sykes is a woman, because there wouldn't be this much smoke for a man, every move he makes, gets called into question. It doesn't happen. It only happens with a woman, and it's happening with AD Sykes. It happened with Dr. Mangum when she was president. 2 + 2 = 4. No matter how many times people will jump and scream on social media, say, oh, it's not because she's a woman. Oh, you need to mind your own school's business. Oh, no, this is FAMU. Anybody can get it. That's y'all's problem. Y'all are the most delusional fan base in black college sports. And there's 106 fan bases that can give you a run for your money. But of that 107, you are the most delusional at this point. You just won an HBCU national championship. You just made a ton of money just by being on ABC, not ESPN 259, but ABC. Everybody knows who Florida A&M is. They knew who Florida A&M was before the Celebration Bowl. They knew about Florida A&M during the Celebration Bowl. They're going to know about Florida A&M after the Celebration Bowl. Willie Simmons, his main objective was always going to be FBS. That didn't, that's what he wanted to be. Don't put this on AD Sykes. And now that we've got this whole thing about, we need a search committee to work with the search firm. How unserious are y'all? Y'all are the most unserious bunch of individuals I've come across in a long time. And I've only come across you on social media. God knows how I'd feel if I ever met any of y'all in person. This is ridiculous. I feel bad for AD Sykes. To an extent, I feel bad for Larry Robinson, because he probably thought he was bringing in a woman that everybody would agree with. But apparently nobody, after winning the championship, everybody's like, oh, wow, forget winning the championship. We hate this woman. We want her out the door. So it's a sad situation all around, and I don't know what the result is going to be. And it puts our joke to rest, because we said on this very stream that Florida A&M would hire a coach before Texas Southern. So much for that.
Tiffani-Dawn Sykes tried to hire a coach before Texas Southern. She presented her case to the board of trustees. She said she understood after Willie Simmons left, it was important for her to make a hire very quickly. And according to her, she notified the people that she needed to notify. The process was going to go as it went. But yet, when she made a recommendation to the president, who also signed off on Sean Gibbs being the next head coach, apparently, it was the affinity groups and Florida A&M stakeholders, after that report by Ride Nation Blog got out, who did everything they possibly could to try to stop this process. And it just seemed like just listening to the meeting, listening to like various people and representatives speak, it seemed like a lot of needy people, a lot of people who wanted their hands in this process aside from Tiffani-Dawn Sykes and President Robinson. Now, there's something to be said about wanting transparency and wanting to know what's on the up and up with a process like this, because it's very vital to not only the athletic department, but for the football team, obviously, because that situation is unique. But at the same time, it seemed like everybody wanted to have their say and direct Tiffani-Dawn Sykes what to do. I can only fault her from this standpoint. If you're going to have a search committee, you do this right after you find out Willie Simmons isn't going to be back. You don't wait 3 weeks after you leave to suggest a search committee. But I know why she did it. She did it because she's trying to appease all these affinity groups and all these individuals who are not happy with her deciding that Sean Gibbs could be the guy for the job. So she's in a really tough spot, to say the least. And it seems like this search is going to drag on at least another week or so, maybe longer. And we saw like the process of it. A lot of bureaucracy, a lot of ego involved in it. A lot of people say, I want to have my voice heard, not from the standpoint of having the voice heard, but having influence too. And so it just has slowed down this process so much. I know the players, they want James Cozy as coach. Some want Billy Roll. A lot of old heads want Billy Roll as to be head coach too. But it seems to me like Tiffani-Dawn Sykes doesn't want either one of them to be the head coach. She wants to do her due diligence, and she wants to try to scour the country to find the best possible coach for Florida A&M. Nothing wrong with that. You expect an authority figure to do their due diligence with the hope that it doesn't compromise the process. But at the same time, as Kristen Hopper and Otis Clatt, who were trustees and chair mentioned, ultimately this is going to ride with Tiffani-Dawn Sykes. She's going to decide who the head coach is. Despite the voices in the room who want to be heard or want to have influence, it's going to be up to her to make the decision. So she's got their support at least. Maybe not so much from alumni stakeholders, but at least from up the chain of command, she has their support. So, Jared, what do you make of all this?
I don't know. I don't know. To a point that Chris made, can we let athletic directors do their jobs?
Yes.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Do the alumni want to get hired as the athletic director? Do they want the job? Because I don't understand why you can't let the athletic director just do their job. Why can't Dr. Granger? Why can't AD Sykes? Why can't they do their job? Why can't you let the process play out the way it may? I don't understand why you feel the need to be involved in every single thing, and you feel like your suggestions of who should be the coach is valid. The only people who deserve to have an input in who should be the coach is the players and the coaching staff, because the players have to be in the locker room with them. They have to be in practice with them. They have to do walkthroughs with them. They have to do training camps with them. They deal with the coach more than the alumni ever will. They are with the coach day in and day out. So the player's opinion matters more than any alumni who is giving money to these institutions. And I want to point out one of the idiotic things I heard in that meeting that was so ridiculous that it planted in my head as soon as they said it. They compared Alabama, the University of Alabama, hiring a coach days after Nick Saban announced his retirement, and talked about how the administration thanked the Alumni Association when they presented the new head coach. Let me tell you now, I'm not knowledgeable on the situation in Alabama or what the alumni and some associations' involvement was, but let me tell you what I'm pretty sure I can hypothesize about the Alabama Alumni Association. I'm pretty sure they weren't giving a vote of no confidence to their athletic director. I'm pretty sure they weren't throwing out 100 candidates of who they think should be the head coach and saying that we should have our input too because we spend our money to the institution. I'm pretty sure they were at their day jobs, minding their own business, allowing the situation to play out, which is what you should be doing. You should be giving your support to your institution rather than feeling like your input is so important just because you give money to your institution. No, it's not your responsibility to feel like your suggestions need to be heard. Your suggestions are appreciated, but it's not priority. The AD needs to be able to do their job to the best of their ability. And the best way for them to be able to do that is for you to allow them space. You can give your input if it is asked for, but you do not need to feel like what you want is priority, because it's not. This is getting out of hand, and in the common thread between the Florida A&M situation and the Texas Southern situation is people who are not normally involved in these decisions feeling like they need to have over input in situations that I'm not even sure is normal. I don't know. I'll be minding my Division II business, so I don't know. But as far as I've never seen a board of trustees or a board of regents getting over involved in coaching searches at university. That is baffling to me. And we're seeing how it's playing out and how it's stifling these programs. And Florida A&M is suffering. The players are suffering as a result.
So, Ken Rashad, as someone who donates thousands of dollars a year to a major university in the state of Louisiana, what's your take on the influence of affinity groups and stakeholders in this process, and just like overall, just like what you made of what you saw today?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, you're good.
This has been a very difficult situation, technically speaking. Trying to go through this. Forgive me, Kendrick. So what was the question again? I want to make sure I understood you. What was the question again?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of how much you saw today's board meeting, but like what you make of, it seems like there's a lot of board members, groups who want to have their say or hand in this process. As someone who's more familiar with this process than we are, what is your take on what transpired today at FAMU?
Well, okay. And not that I have an awful lot of experience in board meetings and so forth, but to be quite honest with you, and I don't really know what was said prior to me coming on because I know I was late and I was trying to make sure I understood what was going on during the board meeting. But for the most part, this board meeting was pretty much what you would expect in a board meeting. I mean, I didn't see anything that was jarring. I didn't see anything that was just awfully surprising. I mean, this was pretty much what you would typically expect. You got board members who wanted to go one direction. You had other board members that wanted to go in a different direction. And ultimately, it came down to a vote, and the majority won. I mean, that's pretty much what I put like this. There was nothing that happened that I didn't expect. And I didn't necessarily come across any fireworks or anything like that. I mean, yeah, there were maybe some moments that were probably a little tense, but that happens when you have individuals or board members who are passionate about the school in which they're representing, and they've been called upon to offer their expert consult, whatever their field of expertise may be. They shared it. But I would just simply say this, and I don't know Tiffani-Dawn Sykes. We've met a couple of times. I don't know her personally, so yeah, I want to make this clear. But I would just simply say this: I'm glad that someone took the time to at least express what she has endured. Granted, some of the criticism was fair, some of the criticism was unfair. And I've even heard some who say, you know what, she really isn't qualified to be the AD. And I guess there's a part of me that says, then why did you hire her? Because at some point, while she may not have had a position as an athletic director prior to this position, at some point, individuals who, whether they've been athletic directors in previous positions, whether they have been athletic directors at a particular school, maybe it's their third or fourth go around, whatever the case may be, at some point, somebody had to get that first time. Somebody had that first time as an athletic director. Same thing applies to a person who may be hired as a head coach. And some will like to, this person doesn't have any head coaching experience. Well, sometimes it happens. But I will say that for those of you who were somewhat critical about Tiffani-Dawn Sykes and the fact that she was I guess new to this process, I guess there's a part of me that says, you know what, maybe there is something to be said about the fact that she's new as a athletic director. Or that, better yet, she's going to take some hits as she acclimates herself to this process. I mean, this is a major hire. I'm not trying to downplay the significance of what this is or what this role means as an athletic director and hiring a football coach. And I understand why everybody is explosive, because it is football. But I just think that given what you hired her for, knowing that she hasn't been an athletic director previously, you kind of, part of me just thinks that you kind of maybe you should have expected this. Someone talked about, well, maybe we need to put some parameters in place so that going forward we'll never have this problem, this problem again. Maybe that's a good idea. But the fact of the matter is that I heard board members who, whatever role they played, because they made it very clear that the board members weren't necessarily responsible for hiring personnel. That's the decision of the presidents, even though they are probably in the know of what the process may be. The point is that it appears to me that everybody you can make and say, everybody dropped the ball. You can't just put this on one person. Everybody dropped the ball. And you can't necessarily just put it on AD Sykes. So I that's just my overall viewpoint. The FAMU community as a whole, whether you're a board member, president, AD, stakeholders, alumni, everybody can learn from this moment. And I'll leave it at that. I've said enough. You muted, Kendrick. Can't hear you.
Just to follow up on that, a lot of people, this may be their first time being privy to a public meeting like this, especially when it involves the situation we're talking about. What do they need to keep in mind about the process? I know you touched on a little bit of it, but like overall, I know Jared spoke about, is this normal, like what we're seeing here? But like people might say, well, like why all these voices need to be included in it? Why all these groups need to be included in it? Doesn't an athletic director need to make his or her own decision about who to hire as the football coach? Is this something that's privy at other schools that have this many voices wanting to be involved in the process?
Well, I mean, look, yeah, they don't get me wrong. The stakeholders need to have a say. And what I'm saying is that I don't want to pretend like I know all of the details, that I know every, the blow by blow of what steps were taken or weren't, or that Tiffany Sykes didn't take in the process of getting to where we are right now. I'm just simply saying that there is a process that, and I've said this before, if there is blame, there's enough blame to go around for everyone. I mean, that's literally what I think we're looking at here, Kendrick. It's just simply something that, you can say it's messy, but I just think that what we've seen here isn't anything that we haven't seen before. I don't know, man. There are just so many layers to this situation. I'll let somebody else speak because I could go on forever, but I want to give you guys a chance to talk as well.
Yeah, what kind of like stood out to me in just observing the meeting online was like how the refrain was, well, at least from alumni and stakeholders, like, well, we've invested money in the program. We did this for the program. We deserve, because of it, to have our voices heard. We deserve this. We deserve that. Like, I went to FAMU in 1985, and I was born at this hospital down the road from FAMU. So that makes me qualified to make a suggestion who I think should be the football coach. I know I may be exaggerating a little bit, but it was like sentiments like that kind of like threw me. Like, I mean, like, you hire this woman to be athletic director. You have these board members. There's a process to all this. Like, why are we listening to? And I know alumni are important. They're the lifeblood university, but like, why should their opinion be, in my view, on the same level or carry similar weight to that other athletic director who's ultimately paid to make these important decisions? I'll start with Chris on that one.
Here's my thing. If you give or you're kind or you do this because you expect something in return, then you're not really doing it out of goodness of your heart. And that's not just related to matters of funding an athletic program or anything else. It's just a life lesson. If conditions come with your kindness, then you're not kind. That's the bottom line. Granted, someone in the chat is making a point that people at Alabama and Auburn give 7-figure checks, and the boosters at Alabama didn't interfere while Nick Saban was there. I think that's a great point, because you would think that Florida A&M alumni, their NAA, their Rattler Club or whatever, gave like 7, 8, 9 figures, and the fact of the matter is that they barely were able to cobble together 6. Let's be realistic about this situation here. Money talks and BS walks, and right now that BS is doing a whole lot of crip walking around the highest of 7 hills. Because nothing y'all are saying or doing right now is giving this woman any confidence to do the job that she was hired to do. And if you are going to, meddle all the time, if you're going to have, lap dogs with blogs and social media followings attack this woman personally, like anything that I've seen on Twitter, X, whatever, it's mama named it Twitter, I'm gonna call it Twitter. Anything that I've seen on Twitter relating to AD Sykes from a criticism standpoint has been very personal. It's been very disrespectful. It's been very misogynistic. It's been very sexist. And I want people to understand that you can't complain about being, the minority, and when you treat the minority within your own community as badly as you do. Like, we have Black people as a whole have this thing about, we need to stick together. We need to do this. We need to do that. But we have problems with women administrators. We have problems with, people with mental illness. We have problems with people who are LGBTQ. I mean, we got to get our own houses in order, before we start, chomping at the big dogs, which is, the folks that run this whole country and this whole scheme. But until we do that, like, nothing y'all are saying or doing is really going to hold any water with me. And I mean, I'm just one person. I mean, I'm just a person that works for HBCU Sports. But again, I must say, the opinions of Chris Stevens do not reflect those of HBCU Sports. I want to make that abundantly clear. But I'm going to give you my 2 cents while I'm here. My 2 cents is everything that AD Sykes has done up to this point has been, for my personal opinion, on the up and up. She's doing the very best she can. And if I were her, not only would y'all be looking for a new coach, you'd be looking for a new athletic director to it as well.
I would say, Chris, there's a lot of people at FAMU who want a new athletic director. Based on the comments
I think the third one in 6 years.
I think and forgive me, FAMU folks, if I'm getting the name wrong, but I think the board member's name was Otis Clatt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think he made it very clear, to his credit. He said that the board and all of the individuals who had some sort of stake in this particular process, he was very, very clear in stating that they needed to tread lightly about how they went about overseeing the job or the responsibility of Tiffani-Dawn Sykes as the AD. He was very direct in stating that she has to be given some level of discretion as to who she thinks would be the best person to lead the football program, with obviously some input from the individuals. Now, you know, I want to be, you know, I know there have been an overwhelming majority of individuals, FAMU stakeholders, who have indicated that they had no say. Part of me, or that she never really took the time to reach out to us. I could be wrong. Look, I want to be careful. I'm not in the FAMU trenches like that. There is a part of me, though, that finds that somewhat hard to believe that she absolutely consulted with none of those affinity groups. She didn't. You mean to tell me she didn't talk with anyone on the alumni? You mean to tell me she didn't speak with anyone with the foundation or whatever? How many other groups? The F Club? I don't know. You mean to tell me she didn't talk to anyone before she came to the decision to make the recommendation? I guess at the time it was Gibbs or whatever the case may be. I do find that just a tad bit hard to believe. However, if for whatever reason it is a situation where she didn't talk to anyone, and you know she made this decision without necessarily getting input from anyone, then I would just simply say that, okay, given where you are right now, given that the fact that if this is her first go around, then maybe you just kind of consider it as a lesson learned, or maybe it's one of those deals to where, okay, she learned, she knows how to operate going forward, and then we go forward. You know, again, I want to be careful because let me just end with this. To go to the extent of saying or voting no confidence of the AD, I thought was a tad bit extreme. That straight up was just that was extreme. That wasn't necessary. You know, I can understand you not liking the decision that she made. I can understand you not necessarily liking the recommendation that she made. But to go so far as to say a vote of no confidence, when I guess up to this point you didn't have a problem with any other hires that she's made up to this point, I'm just saying. I'll leave it at that.
But Ken, the one trustee did say, well, you know, like Tiffany Sykes mentioned, well, she hired the bowling coach, she hired this coach. And he was like, well, you know, like nobody really cares about the bowling coach compared to the football coach, because the football matters more to the university and all what their hire means. And he's right to a lot of degree. Yeah, because nobody really cares who the AD hires for the bowling coach or the softball coach or whatever non-football sport there is. But I will say, though, as a point of clarification, one of the local TV stations down in Florida reported that Tiffany-Dawn Sykes sent an email to a lot of these affinity groups before she reached out to Sean Gibbs to try to counter the narrative that she didn't speak to anybody or didn't contact anybody beforehand.
Yeah.
And she mentioned it again today in the meeting. Like, I contacted these groups and I let them know what I was doing and I let them know how the process was going to work out. But yet still there's a narrative going around that she wasn't transparent with them through the process. Now, maybe an email is not enough to these people, or maybe an acknowledgement is enough for these people. I don't know the extent of the involvement they want to have, but like to say like she didn't contact people, which would be, as Ken mentioned before, something to the contrary of what ADs normally would do in a situation like this. They're going to contact different people. They're going to want to collaborate with different people, stakeholders or at the school otherwise. So it's pretty much just he said, she said at this point. But I'm gonna go to Jared to get his thoughts on this.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that I'm not saying that these board of trustees or these donors or whoever it is don't deserve an input, don't deserve to have an input. Yes, you do. But you are overstepping your bounds, thinking that you know better than the athletic director or the athletic department of what needs to be done and what does not need to be done. That's all I'm saying. And we're seeing that this over involvement is hurting our programs. It hurt Texas Southern and it's hurting Florida A&M now. And we're seeing that we're having to rebuild the pieces in matters that should have been done in the beginning. And that's the only point I was trying to make. I'm not trying to say that the people who put their money into these institutions don't deserve any involvement at all. No, you deserve your input. You deserve the courtesy of communication, which, as Kendrick pointed out, it was put out that she sent an email to you. What more do you need? You need her to fax you. You need her to send you a call. You need her to text you. You want her to hit you up on MySpace. What else do you want? What more do you need? Like, if you can't check your email, I don't know what it is. Maybe you should get your grandkids to check the email for you. I don't know. But she sent you communication. Communication was established. So what are you so upset about? If you want us to believe that the vote of no confidence was warranted, you need to give us more information than what you're giving us, because I have not seen any indication that she deserved a vote of no confidence. She is just doing the best job that she possibly can. Granted, the coaching search, she put out a candidate that you didn't agree with. Fine. But what, other than that, what has she done wrong? You need to give us that information for us to believe that a vote of no confidence was warranted in this situation, because I personally don't see it.
I think just from I was kind of looking in before you go, Ken. I was going to say, like, Jared kind of mentioned, like, yeah, it was her recommending Sean Gibbs to be coach, but I think that was just a harbinger of maybe other issues they probably had with her, and they used her support of Sean Gibbs as a jumping off point to say, you know, like, okay, you went against us on this one. Like, we got these receipts from other things that you failed to do or failed to let us know about, and that's why you got no confidence vote. Now, we're not privy to every single thing that every other stakeholder is, but at the same time, I think the coaching recommendation may be one of many things that these stakeholders and alumni have an issue with her, and they're kind of using it as a reason why they voted against her and voted against recommending Gibbs. But yeah, so I think these are like deep-seated issues that, like, we as non-FAMU alums probably won't understand, but from outside looking in, we thinking like, wow, this, like why would anybody like not like Tiffany-Dawn Sykes because she recommended a football coach? It's probably deeper than just a football coach, from my view. But Ken, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because I didn't get a chance to hear everything during that meeting, and I think one of you guys mentioned that during the meeting that someone mentioned how what did they say? She hired the bowling coaches and what else? Someone did allude to the fact that she made other hires prior to the football coach.
Yeah, it was like a bowling coach and another coach she had hired.
It was women's basketball.
Okay, but you're saying that this individual indicated that because of football, are you saying that they said they didn't care?
Well, the comment was made that, like, yeah, you can tout you hired a basketball coach and a bowling coach, but those don't have the same impact that hiring a football coach does. And so she couldn't use those examples to try to justify her involvement.
Okay, so you're, and I just want to make this clear. This was a board member that said this.
Yeah, it was somebody. I think it was a board member on the call who said that.
Okay, so let me just say this. If you are openly on the record saying that you didn't care about her hiring a bowling coach or a women's basketball coach, but you only cared about them hiring a football coach, then you know what? Shame on you. And I can make the argument that hiring a bowling coach or women's basketball coach is equally important for the simple fact that you need those programs in your program to make sure that you're Title IX compliant. You can't have one without the other. And I understand it ain't sexy to you, but it is something that she has to be mindful of. I understand it's non-revenue producing, and I understand that you need football to support those other non-revenue sports, but those non-revenue sports are needed in order for you to compete at the Division I, or excuse me, at the Division I level or at the FCS level. So that is your problem, not hers. I understand football is what brings in the revenue. I understand football is the thing that really matters. It's the case at pretty much every institution, especially throughout the South. But the fact that you would diminish the fact that she would hire a bowling coach or any of those other non-revenue producing coaches simply because you didn't care is your problem, not hers. I'll just leave it at that.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, Ken said it all. Like, there's more than one program on campus. There are, in some cases, because I know Delaware State just recently made an announcement that, you know, they're going to start working with the NIL group, and in the release there said there were 19 different athletic programs on campus. Football is just one of many. It's not even a quarter of the athletic offerings that a Division I school has. So, like Ken said, if you don't care about the women's basketball coach, if you don't care about the track and field coach, you don't care about the volleyball coach, you don't care about the bowling coach, then you're missing the boat, because everything, one hand washes the other. Everything has to work in tandem. Everything has to work together. Everything has to be going like clockwork for the entire university to be able to thrive. And, you know, as we say in journalism, sports being the front porch to your university. FAMU has a potential to have a glorious front porch if they let this woman do her job. Right now, the front porch, it's very nice, but one loose bolt could have it crumbling right back down again. So if you're one of those people that's just like, oh wow, I need to be seen and heard with this football coach hire, then you're hurting the university more than you're helping it.
Oh, amen.
Yeah, so fellas, it appears that FAMU won't have a football coach this week. Maybe in the next couple of weeks they'll have one based on what the search committee and search firm does moving forward. But I think those things cost. I read an article in Sports Illustrated that a search firm for their various capacities costs between $10,000 and $50,000. So that's going to be an investment that FAMU is going to have to make to do that. But when that work is done, like, what direction do they go? Do they hire a non-FAMU football coach, or do they just say, hey, like, we don't want any more smoke, we're going to go with James Cozy, who the players want, or we're going to go with Billy Roll, or are they going to just, you know, hire somebody in the ilk of Sean Gibbs outside the program, or are they going to go with somebody who they're familiar with to make everybody happy? Right. Ken?
Yeah, I'm reading some of these comments, and now this I want to address this one here. Never anything positive from you all concerning FAMU. I wonder why. Now, Leonard Everett, let me just say this, brother. There is a video on YouTube in which I go through great detail talking about my first trip to FAMU, and it was very positive. If you've been following this channel, if you've been following me, you know that, you know, we are journalists, man. We are professionally trained journalists. We don't just say stuff for hyperbole. We don't just say stuff just for clicks. In this particular instance, we are telling you what we feel about a particular situation. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think we've really said anything negative about the school in and of itself, as much as we may have been critical of the process. So let's not confuse the two. I love HBCUs. Grambling is the greatest of all of them, but I'm just simply saying, I don't want to get beside
lies.
All right, but no, seriously. So this isn't about us trying to be positive or negative, because to be quite honest with you, sometimes you just can't make positive out of a bad situation. FAMU is a great institution. It is. I've said that. But sometimes, brother, you know, us trying to sugarcoat something, that I'll just tell you now, that's not what we do here. So, you know, we're not trying to be overly negative. but this is what we do here. Go ahead, brothers.
And I will add to Ken's point that like we've been very complimentary of FAMU. We had Isaiah Major on our show, who's a SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. All of us spoke highly of him as a football player. We mostly all picked Florida A&M to win the SWAC championship and to win the Celebration Bowl. I don't remember us saying a bad word about FAMU since they not only this season, but since they've been in the SWAC. I think we kind of value all schools in the conference. We will be critical when necessary of any school. To be honest with you, that's kind of our job to do so. But for FAMU, like we really haven't done that. I don't know like what they got talking about. Like we haven't been positive about them. But I will say one thing before I get to Chris. I want to bring this comment up here about from Alvin. This is a good point, Alvin, because I spoke with Reggie Theus, the AD at Bethune for a story I wrote.
Yes.
Yeah, for a story I wrote regarding the process of hiring football coaches. You can read it on our website. And he mentioned that, like I can listen to all these people, I can listen to all these stakeholders, but at the end of the day, if the hire don't go south, it's going to be on me. It's not going to be
exactly right.
Reggie Theus and the board of trustees messed up. Reggie Theus and the boosters messed up. It's going to be on me. And so, like he said, like, yeah, he respects people's positions and respect the voices that they have and suggestions they make. But at the same time, like, he's got to be his own man and have his own convictions and make his own decisions, because at the end of the day, he was hired to do a job. And that job is to put the best people in position to help the athletic department succeed. And so you can say all you want to about like XYZ should be the football coach or whatever, but like you won't get the heat if that hire don't work out. The athletic director will. So I just leave it at that and go on to Chris.
Okay, so I want to address that as well, if I can piggyback off of Ken really quickly. There are 4 separate HBCUs represented in these circles that you see here. The one talking now is representing Delaware State University. The moderator represents Jackson State. Ken, the publisher, represents Grambling. Jared Hoffman represents Boise State. 4 HBCUs, 3 different conferences. There's no old SWAT guard here for you to, be delusional about. Let's get that, out of the way. But as far as, criticism goes, my first 2 videos on here that made some headway, I was criticizing my own alma mater. I mean, you can go back and look at that. I mean, I got phone calls about that. I got phone calls about that from everybody from the athletic department to a board of trustee member.
Chris Hayes, Delaware State, by the way.
Yes, the Delaware State University, by the way. But yeah, all jokes aside, we as journalists, our job is not just to report things. We are trained to critically think about things, discuss the findings, give our thoughts on them without veering too far off into being, biased or partial. But if you tuned in just to see us and say, oh, we're just talking negative about FAMU all the time, and you've missed God knows how many positive things. I mean, like Ken said, we had Isaiah Major on. That great conversation with him. Of course, I mean, for crying out loud, we had Tiffany Green on here, one of the greatest, public figures that FAMU has right now. I mean, she was the lead announcer for the Celebration Bowl. So if you think that us critically discussing a kangaroo court, which this coaching search has devolved to, as just being all negative FAMU all the time, then I encourage you to go back through everything that we've done over the last year and change your thinking.
Yeah, so Jared, I asked you this question: like, what is
I just
FAMU
want to say
for?
to just real quick to Chris's point. He's been critical of Delaware State. I just want you guys, there's a video out there that, we talk about my good friend Doug Williams.
Oh yeah, can't hate Doug Williams too, by the way.
I don't hate Doug Williams, stop. But I'm just simply saying that as much as I love my university, I'm probably more critical of it than anybody. And when they decided to name that field after Doug Williams, I was not on board with it, and I was very public about it. So I just want to put that out there. But I'm sorry, Kendrick, go ahead. That's beside the point. Go ahead.
If you go back in our YouTube archive, one of the first videos Ken Rashad ever did was being critical of Grambling State University. It was like 12 years ago, something like that.
Oh man,
maybe longer.
Look, between social media postings and videos, I've lost count of how many times I've been critical of Grambling.
He's got kids that go to Grambling, by the way. He's still critical of the school.
I got a kid that graduated from Grambling.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Anyway.
Yeah, but Jared, man. So what direction does this family go now with a coach?
Well, I think right now that communication is key from this point. I think I hope that both sides sees that they're both, and they said it in the meeting, that they both have the same goal, which is hiring a head coach and continuing the success that they procured during the Willie Simmons era and keeping that going now. I think that's where we go from here. I think we get a clear understanding of where both sides are coming from, and we move forward amicably, and we push forward with the goal of hiring a head coach before National Signing Day, which I believe is what she said, what she was hoping for. So, but at the end of the day, it's all about wanting better for FAMU and for them to continue their wave of success that they have gone on. Nobody wants to see any HBCUs. Nobody on this show right now, nobody on these screens right now wants to see any HBCUs downfall. Nobody. Why would that benefit us? Why would that benefit us who work for HBCU Sports? We work for HBCU Sports, and you think we care about Florida A&M's downfall? If you look at Chris talked about the videos on this channel is about him disparaging his own alma mater, and Ken talking about his alma mater and giving criticism when it was warranted. All the videos on this channel from me are about the betterment of Division II HBCUs and wanting more light to be shined on Division II HBCUs. I would love to talk about the NAIA programs too. I would love to talk about Langston and Talladega's basketball programs and how great they're doing right now. I would love to talk about, even though I said Division II in NAIA, I would love to talk about Coach Robert Jones at Norfolk State being one win away from 200 career wins. I would love to talk about that. But no, we're talking about a coaching search at FAMU being disrupted because of a lack of communication or a breakdown in communication. So I think we need to reset. I think they need to hit a reset button, and they need to clearly communicate with each other their problems with each other. And there needs to be a solution in how we can get the communication back on track. Because this is more than just a coaching search that is the problem, apparently. This is something that is more deep-rooted that has not been communicated before Willie Simmons decided to leave for Duke. So I think as they're saying that Coach AD Sykes needs to communicate better, the Alumni Association and the Board of Trustees need to communicate better. Because it sounds like they're working against each other rather than with each other. And I stole that from a comment from the stream. They're working against each other rather than with each other. So they need to understand that they have the same goal and want the same things and get on the same page so that they are able to accomplish what they all want, which is the continued success of Florida A&M's football program. And one last thing, as far as not caring about hiring a bowling coach or hiring a basketball coach, talk about a nightmare for recruits who want to go to Florida A&M to be a part of the bowling team or thinking about playing for the Florida A&M basketball team. Because if you're saying that you don't care about them hiring coaches in those sports, you're saying that you don't care about the athletes who play those sports. So you're saying that you don't support those athletes. That's not you saying it outright, but you might as well just say that. Because if you don't care about them hiring coaches in those sports, you don't care about the athletes, the betterment of those athletes in those sports. So why would I want to go to Florida A&M if I'm hearing you say that you only care about the hiring of a football coach? What as a basketball recruit or a bowling recruit, how does that sound to me? So I think we need to I understand that we are invested in keeping Florida A&M's football program on the up and up, because they are rising right now, and they are on a streak that is unmatched right now. But do not tear down other sports because you see what is going on with the football team, and seeing that they are trying to regroup from an incredible loss in Willie Simmons, and let's not forget Devin Rispers, who's now in Colorado.
Yeah, just put a button on the comment about the hiring the bowling coach. I think what that trustee was saying is, like, comparatively, they're not having board of trustees meetings over who's hired for a bowling coach, who hired for women's basketball. They're having these meetings because the football team and the football coach matters a lot financially to the university. And so that position being filled and its authority matters a little bit more internally and externally than any other sport they have on campus. And it might have been a shock, but it's a reality too. I mean, like, we're not having this conversation right now because of what FAMU hire made for bowling or women's basketball. We're having because they're trying to sign the football coach. At the end of the day, I mean, like, as I mentioned before in my article, like, the AD Cable at Alabama State mentioned, like, my team is going to be judged at Alabama State based on what happens with Eddie Robertson Jr., how that works out. Not any other sport I hire for. And that's like the harsh truth about it. Like, non-revenue sports, they don't get the same amount of attention from us, from the public, that football, they don't get the same emotional investment that football does. I mean, like, we tried to log on to the Zoom call today, and it was so many people interested in it, they had to, like, turn people away from actually having access to it. They wouldn't have done that for any other sport, because football generates so much interest and generates so much conversation that people want to know what's going on with the sport. But I'll have Ken have the last word on this. So Ken, ultimately, if you're Tiffany-Dawn Sykes, who do you eventually end up hiring after you get your recommendation from the search committee and from the search firm?
I think at this point, man, and this is just my gut, I think Tiffany Sykes is going to just basically go with whatever direction the wind blows at this point. But if I'm Tiffany-Dawn Sykes, I say this, you know what, based upon what you guys are telling me, considering that it counters to what her ideal pick would be, I would just simply say she might want to go on the record and let them know that this isn't my call. This isn't the person I want to go with. But if you guys want to go with this person, so be it. And if for whatever reason it doesn't work, you can't hold me responsible. I tried to do it my way. You didn't like the way I did it. And you could have held me accountable for that. But now that I think about it, you know what? No matter what the decision is, in this case, I say, you know what? You chopped my legs up from under me the first time. Whoever you decide to go with, or whoever the hire is, you can't put it on me, especially if it's not Sean Gibbs. That's my thought. But since we're talking about that, and if I missed this, because I know I got on this call late, I would like to get you all's input on what do you think about the decision to hire a search firm, because as AD Sykes pointed out, it is going to delay the process. She explained the reason for expediency, in that, you know, if we're going to do a search and we start putting these individuals on record, this public record, you know, they're going to be interviewed, they could potentially be putting their jobs at jeopardy, in that, you know, we could, because people were talking about, this is in the Sunshine, she was talking about the Sunshine Law, making it public, it having to be public, and that you could potentially, depending on where this person is coming from or what this person's current role is, could potentially putting that person's job at risk, as we've already seen, because it had to be public notice about them hiring somebody else. We used to do this long time ago on HBCU Sports. When there were key hires made, we used to literally go ahead and we would request a FOIA, make a FOIA request, and we would publish the names of coaches who applied for a particular job. I had to stop that because I would later find out that when we published those lists, those individuals who were on that list, they were being threatened. Oh, so you don't want to be here now? Oh, so you don't want to be here now? Well, hell, if you are an offensive coordinator at a Division II school and you have an opportunity to get a head coaching position at the Division I school, who wouldn't want to make that move? But now you're going to blame me for it? And it became problematic for some of those individuals. So we had to stop it. So I completely understand what her point. You know, a lot of these people with these schools, and we always like to see compare to what the big schools are doing. You know, they make these searches quick because they understand that, you know, if you make it known that a person is interested in the job, before you know it, he's got to go back. Oh, so you're not happy with us now? You know, you don't want to be with us. So I just think that, you know, that's my thought about the search process. But I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts are on them making the decision to hire a searching firm.
I don't think it's really needed, to be honest with you.
Right. I don't either, but I am interested in your input.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, like it delays the process because it's been 3 weeks since Willie Simmons decided to go to Duke, and so the clock is ticking in terms of like time until National Signing Day, time until current players have to make decisions whether or not they're going to stay at the university. I know players are allowed 30 days after a coach decides to leave a school, whether or not they're going to jump in the transfer portal, and we're coming up on that time pretty soon. And so I'm pretty sure like a lot of players who may have been privy to this meeting or heard it probably saying, well, I got to make a decision real quick. I can't wait another 3 weeks before I determine whether I'm going to stay here. So I think they just need to come to a decision, like whatever it is, whether it's stay in house or go outside of it, but it needs to come quick because there's way too much on the line right now. Yeah.
Especially when you put in consideration what they've done up to this point. And the momentum, I think it's safe to say, has died down. And they're not only losing players, but they're losing members of the coaching staff too. And that's something to be concerned about.
They lost their recruiting coordinator.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm saying Jared or Chris.
Okay, so go ahead, Chris.
No, I was gonna say you can go first. I'll go after you.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of ignorant to what a search committee would do anyway. So I don't know really what the point of it is. All this stuff is new to me. So I'm just speaking from a common sense standpoint, from just based on common sense. Why? Why now? You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, I don't see what it would accomplish. It just sounds like there's a bunch of voices who all want the same thing but don't know how to go about it. So I just feel like this would just cause more conversation than it already has now.
Maybe Jared is showing his age. So Jared, back in the day, I know you're a recent graduate. Back in the day, they had these things called search firms. And when a coach would leave the university or whenever a vacancy became available, the universities would go out and they would retain these search firms and they would do this nationwide search. And they would basically kind of, scrub the ground and try to make recommendations as to who they think or who they thought were probably the most qualified people for that position. They go out and they go out and they find the human resources for you. And then they'll basically leave it up to you to kind of dwindle that list down. And they, in many instances, would kind of be somewhat of a kind of a timely process. Sometimes it could take several weeks, maybe in some cases, a good couple of months before they would come to make the hire. But then back then, you didn't have the transfer portal, you didn't have NIL, and you didn't have coaches who can just, there were just a lot to it, and players didn't have that flexibility to just up and leave. They signed a commitment and they were stuck there until, they decided they transfer and they have to stay out a year and then they can play someplace else. So anyway, you're right, Jared. We're kind of in this I want it now mentality, and that's kind of where we are right now. That's why a lot of people are probably saying that this search committee is kind of a waste of time, but I just wanted to put some context in you. I'm just kind of teasing you. I know you knew better.
No. Yeah, I think
I know you knew better.
But this is a good situation for people, like, and I probably shouldn't be talking as much as I am, knowing how ignorant I am to certain situations like this. But I think this is a good situation for people like me who are unaware of what situate about board of trustees and board of regents and their involvement with institutions. Because before Texas Southern and Florida A&M, I was unaware of how involved board of trustees were in coaching searches. So this admittedly should have been a sit back and listen type of thing for me, rather than but the thing that is not debatable is the chaos that all of this has caused, and that it's something that unfortunately AD Sykes has had to deal with. And I hope that throughout this process that she is, I hate to go in this direction, but I hope that she is, handling her mental health in the best that she can in this moment, because unfortunately we've seen what happened at, Lincoln University of Missouri, with their I forget her position. I don't know if she was a vice president or president of whatever her position was, but I hope that she is handling her mental health in the best that she can, because you can hear it in her voice that she is tired and that she is, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she just sounded like she just wants the situation to be over. So I hope that she is handling this in the best way that she possibly can, and that, this is all resolved sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, I was actually going to make that point, Jared, but thank you for making it for me. Yeah. The tragedy that happened at Lincoln University is something that we cannot take lightly. We see it all the time that, mental health and people, we're being made aware of mental health now, especially in our communities, things that we didn't take seriously because we used to just call people crazy all the time and dismiss them. Now you can't do that anymore. And that's for the better, because now we can all reevaluate how we view mental health, mental illness, those challenges and different things of that nature. So again, like Jared said, to piggyback off that, I really hope that AD Sykes is, she's taking care of herself, and she's obviously surrounded by love, because, she's got people on social media. I mean, her mother's on social media, for crying out loud. And her mother's been like, very, outspoken about her support for her daughter. And I know that probably has to be very annoying to a woman of a certain age, that you got to remember your Twitter password to tell people to get off your daughter's back. But I really hope that, AD Sykes and her family are, wrapping her up in love, and they're taking care of her, because my grandmother had a saying, whenever me and my younger sister would used to do things that were a little bit outside of our purview as children, like, because, my grandmother, God rest her soul, Susie Price, miss her every day. My mom was a working mom, so my grandmother used to take care of us all the time. So when me and my sister would do dumb stuff around the house, and my grandmother would correct us, she would have the saying, and I'm going to say the sanitized version of it: doggone it, you give an African-American a rope, he want to be a cowboy. That's what I'm getting from this Florida A&M coaching situation. So many people just jumping outside of their general knowledge base when it comes to athletic departments and, administration and bureaucracy and all of that. Like, I really just want people to take a step back. Number one, let this woman do her job. And number two, if you are only concerned about as I said before, and as me and Ken alluded to, if you're only concerned about the football coach, then you're doing the rest of your university a disservice. But I do, as far as the coaching, the search firm, it's par for the course. But as a lot of people in that meeting mentioned, Florida A&M has a budget issue. They can't keep throwing money down this hole. They have to hurry up and hire a coach quick, because committees, and I worked for a consulting firm a couple of years ago, and most of the time we sat around waiting for people to make up their minds about what they wanted us to do, and we still got paid for it. So you're basically telling people that are probably sitting on a beach somewhere, or eating at their favorite restaurant, or just chilling, just waiting for you to make your mind up, because you're paying them anyway, because they have a certain overhead that that they have to charge anyway. So this is something that Florida A&M has to move on quickly, because you can't just keep throwing money down the well.
Yeah, like I said before, those search firms usually cost between $10,000 and $50,000. So in some cases more, depending on how much work you want them to do. So FAMU can't afford to spend more time and money on hiring a football coach. With a program successful as they are, you think they have a lot of interested candidates for that job and can move quick. But the process is being stalled for various reasons that we talked about here. But I guess we all think like we're going to allow Tiffany-Dawn Sykes to make her own decisions for FAMU football coach at this point, and not so much try to meddle too much in it. But it's pretty interesting just to get an inside look at kind of like how these things work. I know a lot of people watching us now or not aware or haven't been privy to, like what a board meeting of this nature actually looks like, what it contains, what it involves, some of the emotion involved in it, some of the power struggle involved in it, some of the ego involved in it, some of the wanting your voice to be heard involved in it. So it's a good educational opportunity for all of us who going into it just thought like, hey, like a school the football coach, the AD just picks the coach, and it goes on from there. Nope, it's a little bit more complicated than all that, and I think we have to realize that moving forward. But fellas, is there anything else y'all want to say about this situation or anything else involving FAMU at this point?
Nah, we've said enough. We've ticked off Rattler Nation enough. I think we're good.
No, I think Ken Rashad ticked off Rattler Nation, despite the fact he loves their campus, which he called elite.
I'm sorry, I'm just having all kinds of stuff going on here. So I'm glad it was me.
Yeah, we saw you on your phone. You making business deals? What's going on?
What'd you say?
I said we saw you on your cell phone, like making business deals, or what are you doing over there?
No, I was actually, if you really must know, I was actually trying to get in contact with Brian Fulford to see if he could possibly come on and give us some input, or if he had a chance to watch the board of trustees meeting, and I couldn't make contact with him. That's all. So, and then all of a sudden my phone just started doing crazy things. I'm thinking, is that coming from the phone or is that coming from the system? But anyway, it's a live stream, right?
Yeah.
Anything goes in a live stream apparently. But it makes for good content though. Might cut that one up later. I don't know, but yeah, everybody, thanks for joining us. We've been at this for like more than an hour, one of our longer shows. So we have normally try to keep it under an hour because we all have lives outside of this. But yeah, thanks for joining us, and be sure to please hit the like button. Follow us on our social media channels. Be sure to read our coverage on our website, HBCUsports.com, and we will see you on the next go around.